Life is hectic.
Some days are just a blur.
We're Jay and Laura LaFoon, and we help busy couples stay married for life.
Welcome to the Married for Life podcast. Hey, welcome to the podcast today. Our friends Keith and Shaundra Rushing.
Our good friends.
From Louisiana or Texas, or it depends on the time of year where they are, because they've gone back and forth for a few years, so we know.
We are super excited to bring our good friends Keith and Shaundra to you today because, we hit it off from the moment we met, and B, they've got an incredible story, an incredible ministry called Better Half Ministries, and I can tell you which one's the better half right now. But actually, a little background. We met Keith and Shaundra. We were teaching at Ken Davis's Dynamic Communicator Workshop, and Keith and
called the SCORE.
Now called the SCORE Conference, SCORE Speaker Conference. And Keith and Shaundra were in my small group, and boy, we were kindred spirits, hit it off.
I think I was in the small group too.
Oh yeah. Well, you were.
I don't think it was just one.
We were.
I think I was there.
We were team teaching, weren't we? Oh yeah, you were there.
Oh yeah, I was there.
In my mind, it was all me. Anyway, but just really hit it off, and have been good friends ever since. Hang out every once in a while, and we'll tease you with a little bit because they're going to be coming to our Mackinac conference. But we want to let you get to know them like we've gotten to know them. So Keith and Shaundra, tell us your story, beginning with how you fell in love, and then moving on from there, some of the stuff that you have been through that some people might be able to relate to.
Yeah, great. Well, first of all, thank you for having us today, and you guys are great friends. And we're coming to you from Louisiana today. We're not in Texas, so we are in
Is it West Monroe?
West Monroe, yeah, the home of Duck Dynasty down here.
There you go.
So Shaundra, well, you want to say something, baby?
Yeah, well, we met, we were high school sweethearts. We met in 10th grade while I skipped a class every day to go to his lunch time. That's how we met. And our first date was at the fair. It's kind of appropriate, isn't it? Take your girlfriend to the fair.
That's how it is around here. Now, Shaundra, did you lose or did you flunk that class that you were skipping?
Would you believe I never even got in trouble for skipping it, and I don't even remember what class it was.
No, she was a straight A student. She didn't have to try at all.
Okay, very good, very good. So high school sweethearts, and then
high school sweethearts. She was a cheerleader. I played ball. It was a very typical high school dating relationship, and we were good kids. We really were. Didn't give our parents any problems, and it came to no surprise to them or our friends when in 1978 I proposed to Shaundra, and she said yes.
And I said yes.
She said yes.
Very good.
All those classes were not in vain.
Were you out of college or out of high school by that time?
Oh yeah, 78. We graduated in 76, and we were sophomores in college.
Okay.
She quit college to go to work to support us. She should have been the other way around because she's twice as smart as me. But anyway, so yeah, that's how we met, and that's when we got married in 1978.
Wow, very good. Where'd you go to school, college?
Northeast Louisiana University, which is now known as ULM, University of Louisiana Monroe.
Ah, very good. Right there at home.
Yep.
Cool.
So, and then Shaundra later graduated on down the road. We moved several times. She ended up getting her accounting degree at University of Texas at Tyler, Texas.
Okay.
So
tell us your story, because it is an incredible story. I've heard it a couple times, and it just moves me because you guys almost wouldn't be with us today.
Yeah, that's very true. So, after we met, we've been married a couple of years, and believe it or not, I actually felt called to the ministry. And so we were going to a Methodist church at the time, so we decided to go to seminary at Perkins School of Theology at SMU. And so we had a 2-year-old at the time, and so we moved over there, and after about a year, I realized that maybe I jumped the gun a little bit because I had more red marks on my test papers than black. It was real life graduate school, and I was a good solid 2.0 student in college and undergrad. That didn't work out too well. So anyway, I ended up getting a job with as an outside sales rep, and for a big company which moved us to Tyler, Texas. and it was a great town. We really enjoyed that. Had a great time. As a matter of fact, that's where you ended up graduating, right, babe?
Yeah.
She graduated in 1986 in accounting. And get this, she takes her CPA exam and passed it the first time she takes it. Passed everything.
That does not surprise me.
That is unheard of.
Because, Keith, they do say that opposites attract.
Yeah, hey, man. I am living proof of that. If I were in a movie, it'd be Dumb and Dumber, right? So anyway, yeah, we got.
And actually, when we were in Tyler, we had our second and third children, and I had a job at a CPA accounting firm, and things were just going great. Just still newlyweds,
Yeah.
still in love, just.
Yeah, things were going good. I'll tell you where our downfall started. And we did have a downfall. It was more like a sheer drop off of a cliff.
Mhm.
Is we started learning how to drink because my employer was this huge Fortune 500 company at the time, and entertaining was part of the job. And back then, I'm not sure what it's like now, but back then, entertaining meant going to nice restaurants, taking your customers out, ordering the right wine, and so drinking was around a lot of that. And we really hadn't drank much till then. I mean, we didn't have an opinion about it because it just didn't show up on our radar. But it seems like the more we got into entertaining, the deeper we got into an addiction. And we didn't realize we were addicted. And we certainly didn't start with that intention in mind. Nobody does, by the way.
Right.
And, but we looked around one day, and we lived in a dry county, and we were traveling on Saturday about 40 minutes one way to stock up on alcohol so that we'd have enough to get us through the week. Because we lived in a dry county. And, it just snowballed.
Well, and before we realized it, we were having to go twice a week.
Yeah.
for the week. So,
So that's, that one part of our story is an addiction to alcohol, which we both struggled with back then. And it just kept getting worse and worse. And I guess we moved to Louisiana in 1993 and continued with the drinking. But we were very functional. Don't get us wrong. We had great jobs. We made good money. And from the outside looking in, we were this perfect little family with 3 beautiful kids with good jobs. We went to church on Sundays. And as the song goes, poke 5-card stud on Saturday night, church on Sunday morning. That's kind of how we were,
Yep.
And, it just continued to get worse and worse until finally in 2000, I think is probably when we hit rock bottom. Would you say, babe?
Yeah, I would say so. It's so funny. We both hid our alcohol from each other, like we didn't know the other one was drinking, So
Yeah.
it was kind of, looking back, it was kind of comical,
Sure.
Yeah, drunks do stupid things that are real funny.
Yeah.
And it makes you really smart, too.
It makes you real smart and bulletproof, which kind of leads us into this last part of our story here. I don't know, I guess it was around 2000, 2001, something like that. We'd been drinking, just our normal 5 o'clock somewhere kind of day. And it was probably about 6 o'clock at night, getting supper ready and things like that. And Shaundra had asked me to go out and get something out of her car. When I went out there, I found a man's business card in her back seat. And I thought, well, this is strange. And he was from out of state. And I didn't recognize the business. And I said, well, surely not. But I had my suspicions. And so back then, you had voicemail on your phone. I guess you still do, but most people text these days. But anyway, I knew how to get into her voicemail. So I thought I would just check her voicemail. And so, what I was afraid of proved to be true.
Wow.
And I realized at that time that she was having an affair with this guy. So me being the very tactful, forgiving person, I'm saying that very patient, stormed inside, confronted her, and of course she denied it. We'd both been drinking, and she denied it until I showed her that I had proof, and then she broke down, admitted it, and a couple of days later, I packed my bags and moved out to an apartment.
Wow. Wow. That had to be just super devastating for both of you. And
I filed for divorce, by the way. That's when I filed for divorce.
So what kept you from divorcing?
The only thing that Shaundra and I can attribute that to is God.
Okay.
And that sounds like the church answer. But,
Okay.
but it's not, because Shaundra and I always say that your relationship with your spouse will never be what it can be until your relationship with Jesus is what it ought to be.
Sure.
And we're living proof of that, Jay and Laura.
Okay.
We're living proof of that. When I moved out, something happened. When I filed for divorce, will you tell them what happened the day you got a knock on the door, baby?
Yeah, well, I was home one day with two of the kids, the younger ones. They were like, what, 8 and 10,
Something
probably
like
9,
that, yeah.
11, something like that. Then I got a knock at the door, and I went to it, and, not many people knock on the door even back then. And so I go, and the kids come follow along with me and open the door, and there's this man standing there, and he says, I said, can I help you? He said, ma'am, you've been served, and handed me this big envelope. And I instantly knew what it was. And so that was actually kind of the starting point of our even more downward spiral.
Yeah. She had been served divorce papers. I didn't even know they did it. I think it was the sheriff's deputy or something. I didn't even know how that happened. But our two kids were standing by watching.
Wow.
And then to make matters worse, we're both drinking at the time. So that night, tell them what happened.
With me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, the worst time was shortly after that. I was home alone. Keith was out in an apartment. All my friends, at this point, I'm the bad guy, the really bad guy. So all our friends kind of sided with Keith. Divorce papers being served, and I thought about Keith's gun. And I'm like, he had a gun in the closet. And I went and got it and laid it on the bed. And I probably sat there for an hour or two just thinking and crying and commiserating and finally, came to my senses and said, Shaundra, you can't do this. You got an 8-year-old in one bedroom and a 10-year-old in the other one. So just no. So that was a real turning point for us, because I guess it was a wake-up call. I started taking the kids to church every Sunday, and just I started reading the Bible and praying and calling Keith and asking him to come to church with us every week. And every week he said no. So just to prove that I am the smartest one, I asked my 8-year-old daughter to call and invite her daddy to church.
There you go.
And he could not say no.
Right. So Shaundra knew that where the answer to our problems and struggles, she knew where to go to get the answer.
Yep. There you go.
I'm going to say that has to be the answer to your question. When I said God,
Right.
Shaundra knew where to go. And so she literally dropped everything in her life and ran to him. And it's kind of hard for me to talk about it, but so they invite me to church, and I go. And it's a big church. And honestly, I didn't want to go. I didn't want to hear anything that any pastor had to say. I was hurt. I was mad. And honestly, I wanted out of the marriage. But I appeased my daughter. And I met them at church and led them all the way to the balcony of the back row so I could lean my head on the wall, maybe nap. And no one would see us because we're from here and we know a lot of people. And that day, that preacher looked at me and talked to me the whole time. I don't think he thought there was anybody else there but me.
Wow.
So I didn't hear God verbally tell me, but the feeling and the sensation was so overwhelming that God was saying, Keith, what are you doing to your family and to your relationship? What's left of it with me? Go to your apartment, pack your bags, and move home today. And it scared me. And after church, I told Shaundra, I said, I think God just told me to move back home, so that's what I'm doing. And so that day I moved back in, and things I would say got a little bit better because I saw Shaundra reading scripture daily and praying daily. And I had never seen that before.
Right.
In her. And then I started seeing a change come over, and I liked the change. We actually together, she always drank a whole lot more than I did.
I believe that.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And so we decided she needed to go to a 30-day rehab center.
Yeah, we still hadn't kicked the drinking yet, but things were getting a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went to this rehab facility, 30 days. And, you know, you have to have somebody bring you and drop you off. So I didn't have a car, couldn't leave. And about 12 days into this 30-day program, I said, nope, I'm not doing this. So, and I couldn't think of anybody to call. I think I called you, and you wouldn't come get me.
No, I wasn't coming to get you.
And I didn't have anybody else to call. So I called my mother and father-in-law to come pick me up, to come break me out of the rehab facility. It was about midnight, I would say, between 11 and 12 o'clock. And they came and got me, brought me home, and never said a word about it again.
Yeah. And
wow.
So the rehab center didn't work. But here's what happened. Our Shaundra, we continued to go to church. I was going to church. I was actually taking my family to church. I was not going with them.
Wow.
There's a huge difference in that for men to understand.
Yep.
I was taking them to church. And so our marriage started getting better. I mean, as good as it could get with an alcohol addiction and unfaithfulness without any kind of reconciliation to speak of, you know, without any kind of confessions or anything that we'll get into later. But, so anyway, Shaundra had been praying so hard for God to take this desire to drink away from her. And in 2003, we experienced our first miracle.
Yeah. Yeah, I had been praying daily for probably about 2 years, asking the Lord to please, because I had, after the rehab stint, I tried AA. I mean, I did all the things and nothing worked. And March 3rd, 2003, I woke up and I knew that I would never touch a drop of alcohol again.
Wow.
And I haven't to this day, and I don't have a desire for it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
It is.
Jay, we call that our pick up your mat and walk moment.
There you go. There you go.
For sure.
That's what it was. You know, or to put it in the baseball analogy, it was a walk-off home run. You know.
So did you stop then too, Keith?
No, I did not. I continued my wicked ways, really. Out on the road, there's a lot of temptation as a salesman.
Yep.
I spent a lot of nights in the hotel lounge and bars and doing things that I ought not be doing. And but slowly, the desire for alcohol started leaving me, believe it or not, as I saw Shaundra getting more sober. And I really liked her sober. You know, the old country song, I think I liked you better when you were drinking. Well, for us, I liked her better when she wasn't drinking.
Sure.
And so it really made an impression on me, and it influenced me to not drink. So I started praying for God to take that away from me. And long story short, I quit sometime in 2010, 2009. I had my last one, but I don't have mine was not like Shaundra's. It was just gradually, it just went away, you know.
Right. Well, obviously the Lord works differently with different people. So
yeah. I'm going to bring our story to a conclusion here because it has a little twist. So we basically became self-employed way back in like 91. I left that industrial sales job, but I was still doing the same thing for a living. I was still selling out on the road. We were just doing it for ourselves.
Right.
And we'd built this manufacturing facility in 2002, and God favored our business. I mean, we were really trying to to live life right. At least Shaundra was. And so in 2009, by that time, our marriage was really good. I had asked God to forgive me for a lot of things in my life. He had. I basically had almost quit drinking, and several miracles happened in our life. It's not long enough to. I mean, we don't have enough time to get into it. Let me just say this: we sold our business to the same company that hired me in 1985, which was now a Fortune 200 company.
Wow.
They bought our business lock, stock, and barrel in 2009, April of 2009. And my plans were to try to make it on the senior tour. I played a lot of golf, and I wanted to go to Q school. But God and Shaundra had way different plans for me. And I'm so glad. I'm so glad that they did. Number one, I wouldn't have made it through Q school. Right. But number two, life has just been so much richer and fuller doing what we're doing today. But here's the twist. The Holy Spirit had really been working on me to confess my sins to Shaundra. And for about a year, I was having this conversation with the Holy Spirit. And what he was telling me to do didn't sound right to me. He was urging me to confess all my past sins to Shaundra, and because he wanted to use our story for his purposes. And hey, something just happened to the screen. Are you there, Jay?
Yep, we're good.
Okay. So I was battling about confessing my sins to Shaundra. So I know the date. September 7th of 2009 was Labor Day, and all our kids were coming over for Labor Day lunch at noon. And 11:30 is when the Holy Spirit decided to just consume me. And I looked at Shaundra and said, baby, I got something to tell you. She was so unsuspecting. See, Shaundra always thought I hung the moon. She really did. No wife could have loved their husband any more than my wife loved me. She literally thought I hung the moon. But she found out that day that I was not the one that hung the moon, because I sat her down and I confessed to her all the many times I had cheated on her with other women. She had no idea. It hit her like a freight train, way before she had ever decided to cheat on me. And so what made it bad was when she was caught in her infidelity, I didn't come clean at the time myself, and I made her think she was the only one that had, and how could she do this to her family? And then the second bad thing about that was that she wasn't married to the guy she thought she was married to.
Right.
And so her immediate reaction was what, sweetheart?
Well, honestly, anger.
Right.
Anger was my first reaction. I wanted to hit him. It's a good thing I did. But that pretty quickly turned to just devastation. I mean, it's like it devastated the whole marriage. It's like the whole marriage wasn't even real, and I was too stupid to even know it and to see it. So it was a big blow.
It was bad. She was crying. You know, the crying turned into hollering and screaming. And I was telling God the whole time under my breath, see, I told you.
Right, right.
I told you this wasn't going to work.
Yep.
You know what he was telling me, Keith? Trust me. Just trust me. And that the wound that is in your marriage that you've created, I'm going to have to clean it out. And it hurts to clean a wound out, but it's the only way that you're going to get healed. And so just trust me. And I know this doesn't sound believable, Jay. I know it doesn't. But 3 days later, Shaundra came up to me and put her arms around me and said, I love you, and I want to stay married to you, and I want us to work through this.
Awesome.
And when she said that, I broke down and cried like a little baby girl, because that's when I knew God was answering our prayers and that everything was going to be okay. It wasn't going to be easy. You know?
Right.
And
since I've met you, I've been challenging you. I hope you consider it challenging to get your story out there, because so many couples experience infidelity. So many couples struggle with abuse, alcohol abuse or drug abuse, and they need to know that there is hope, there is light, there is a way. And we'll talk about that in the second half. We're super excited. Keith and Shaundra Rushing are joining us in May at our Celebrate Your Marriage conference. They are our speakers for our VIP experience. and super excited to have them.
That's at Grand Hotel
Yes.
in Mackinac Island, Michigan.
Yes, Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island, Michigan. And the other cool thing is that they've written a book. Do you call it a book, Keith?
It's just a booklet, I would say. It's 9 pages long. It's my kind of book.
Right. Yeah. It's a man's kind of book. Yeah. And the title is called True Forgiveness. So when we come back from the break, we're going to talk to Keith and Shaundra about what they're going to share with us at Grand Hotel at our Celebrate Your Marriage conference, and probably a little bit more.
And aren't they also joining us on the cruise?
Oh, that's right. That's
2020?
right. 2020. They're joining us on the cruise as well. So
we like them, so we're going to keep them around.
all righty. We'll be right back.
Hi, everyone. This is Paul Thomas, Director of Live Events here at Celebrate Ministries. A couple of things I want to make you aware of. Time is running out. If you want to join us for Celebrate Your Marriage, presented by Thrivent Financial at Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island this May, April 18th is the last day to get tickets at a discounted rate, and April 18th is also the last day to reserve your room as part of our block at Grand Hotel. On April 19th, the prices go up, and we can no longer guarantee you a room, so you'll need to take action now. Jay and Laura are talking with Keith and Shaundra Rushing this week, and we're excited because the Rushings will be our featured speakers at the Celebrate Your Marriage VIP experience this May. The Celebrate Your Marriage conference on May 19th and 20th will feature Jay and Laura, along with sand artist and America's Got Talent finalist Joe Castillo. The VIP experience includes a private dinner with the Rushings and the LaFoons on May 20th, as well as sessions on May 21st, giving you a chance to stay one more night at historic Grand Hotel. Celebrate Your Marriage is a chance for you and your spouse to get away, to slow down, to focus on each other, and provide romance in a way that only Mackinac Island can. This is our premier event for over 20 years, and we want you to be a part of it. This is the last week we will offer our special deal to our podcast listeners. Visit the link in the show notes to get a discount of $20 per couple. This discount will go away on April 18th, so buy your tickets today. You can find out more about Celebrate Your Marriage at Grand Hotel by visiting celebrateyourmarriage.com. Now, if you want to bring Jay and Laura to your church, we're booking into 2020. Email us at podcast@jayandlaura.com for more information. Now, let's get back to Jay and Laura's conversation with Keith and Shaundra Rushing.
Hey, welcome back. We're going to continue talking to Keith and Shaundra Rushing and learn a little bit more about their ministry and how their story has played into that.
So tell us, folks, what has God been doing? How's he been opening doors? We're really excited to have you at Grand Hotel to tell your story, but tell us more about what he's doing with your ministry.
Well, you know, what the coolest thing about our ministry, I guess, is, and it's really kind of opposite of what we think it would be, is our sharing our story with people. People just come out of the woodwork when they hear our story, and it's not that our story is any great story or any different from a million other stories out there. It's just that what Scripture says is there's power in the word of your testimony. It's so true, because when we share our story, we see some people crying. A lot of people will come up to us afterwards and say, oh my gosh, we're right in the middle of that, or we just came through that, or my son, or my sister. Or that there's always someone that comes that it's been touched, and that makes a difference in their life. So it's not us, though. It's what God told me a long time ago. The reason you have to confess to your wife is because I'm going to use what was meant for your destruction, and I'm going to show you what I can do.
There you go.
And he's done that. So.
Yep. So tell us a little bit about your booklet, True Forgiveness. Like you said, it's a book that men would like because it's 9 pages long.
Yeah, well, I appeal to the men there. Well, True Forgiveness, this is what, I'm going to steal your thunder, baby. Is that okay? All right. Shaundra is the one that she read this somewhere. She says it's been said that we are most like Christ when we are forgiving.
Wow.
And that is so true. And, our marriage really is about forgiveness. We had so much to forgive. Shaundra had a lot to forgive, and I have a lot to ask for. I made her an expert in forgiveness. So I take credit for that. So anyway, our book on true forgiveness is we like to challenge married couples. All married couples like to have a great vibrant, joy-filled, fun marriage. And we like to tell them that you can have that marriage if you will display these 4 traits of true forgiveness in your marriage. Because they're going to be at least one time in your marriage that you're going to have to ask for forgiveness, Jay.
Yes, at least one.
A day or a week or what?
I would say once
One
an
a
hour.
day?
Once
Yeah,
an
wow,
hour.
that
Maybe Laura should answer that. I don't know. But so forgiveness is it's part of marriage. And so what we say in the booklet is I challenge people to think about some of the greatest events in world history that has made the largest impacts on mankind. And there's so many. I mean, there's too many to mention, but we mentioned a few, like the 9/11 attacks that killed almost 4,000 people. I mean, that made a huge impact on our country that we still live with today.
Yep.
And, Roe versus Wade, 60, 70 million babies so far have been killed since that decision from 1973. Yep. The Holocaust, 6 million Jews were slaughtered. I mean, just so many events. But of all the events, all of the good events and the bad events that have happened in our world, the one that has the most impact, unarguably had the greatest impact on mankind, is the crucifixion and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. I mean,
yep.
There's just no doubt about it. As a matter of fact, I would dare say that event, the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus, has been talked about and are studied every single day since it happened until today, somewhere in the world. You know,
I would say that's an accurate statement. Yep.
Somewhere in the world. So there's no doubt that event is a huge impact, and I say it's had the biggest impact, and that because that event it overcame our greatest fear, which is death. And so when we think about the reason for that event, the why that event happened, it all boils down to one word, and that's forgiveness.
There you go.
Shaundra and I have no doubt that if it weren't for forgiveness, number one, we wouldn't be here.
Right.
Number two, we certainly wouldn't be married. And so we think that Christ-like forgiveness that Jesus modeled is the pivotal point of a changed life. It certainly was for us. And
so just a thumbnail sketch, what are those 4 points?
Yeah, 4 points is to live with live with a confessional spirit, live with a humble spirit, live with an unconditional spirit, and live with an unlimited spirit. So it's confession, humility, unconditional, and unlimited.
Very good. Very good. So how have you guys seen that? Obviously, again, you had your big confessional time, but how have you seen that fleshed out over the years?
Well, we still have to,
I still screw up sometimes. Not that bad, though.
He still may mess up a little bit sometimes. Yeah. And I guess I do too, huh, babe? Yeah. But
well, it's kind of like being on Mackinac Island. You can't go the whole time without stepping in some horse manure. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But we see that play out every day in our life. I tell you, since we've been changed, though, since we have been changed by the work that Jesus did on the cross, confessing when we mess up is not as hard as it used to be. Confessing really goes against human nature, doesn't it? Who wants to admit they're wrong? But I'm telling you, our relationship with Jesus Christ is everything. If it weren't for that, we probably wouldn't confess and forgive near as often as we do. Which is, when you're married, you're going to step on each other's toes, like you said, in the best of conditions.
Right. Even on your best days, you let each other down, you hurt each other, you say things you don't really mean, but you say them anyway. And yeah, I mean, and even in marriages, I mean, you've been married 40 years, we've been married 34, and you'd think we'd learn by now, huh, honey? But
you'd think.
but we're
all slow learners.
Yeah, well, and we're human. That's the bottom line. We're human. We are certainly looking forward to having you guys with us at Mackinac Island at our Grand Hotel Celebrate Your Marriage Conference, and also at Celebrate Your Marriage at Sea next January. Like I said, your story needs to be heard. There are so many out there who are going through what you guys have gone through, And it really is important for folks to see hope.
So Keith and Shaundra, if somebody's listening to this podcast and says, man, I need help because this is what we're going through, how could they contact you? Through their Better Half Marriages?
Yeah, betterhalfministries.com.
BetterHalfMinistries.com.
Yeah, and we both have emails there, Keith at betterhalfministries.com, Shaundra at betterhalfministries.com. Just shoot us an email.
Yep,
And we'll put that in the show notes.
We'll put that in the show notes for this podcast. We really appreciate you guys. Thanks for coming on. We look forward to seeing you in May. And folks, if you're listening, we'd love for you to rate us on iTunes and to share us and rank us and all those other things that I have no idea what I'm talking about, but they're telling me I need to talk about these things so that we can grow the podcast and help more marriages. This is Jay and Laura LaFoon. We are helping busy couples stay happily married for life.